Hey, to our listening audience on today.
Good. They should be able to hear now. And
Hey, can you hear now? Those of you that are listening by social media, are you able to hear us now? We should have gotten that fixed.
yeah, and it switched back.
But hey, let me just open up, Dr. Glenn. You want to start? Okay, keep going.
Let me go back since we didn't have audio at the top.
It's good.
Blessings in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit to all of our listening audience and all those worldwide. You are tuned into the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams, here on Awesome Radio, awesomeradionetwork.org, WECU 1570 AM and 107.5 FM, Winterville, Greenville, WNOS 1450 AM and 102.3 FM, New Bern, WILT LP 100.3 FM, Rocky Mount, WBIS LP 106.9, Espanol, Winterville, all North Carolina. And we have a very exciting topic to discussion today for you. Previously, show, Apostle had mentioned something about hippies and if there were black hippies. Well, we're going to explore those facts and bring them to you today. All happening now. Here's Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams.
Hey, Dr. Glenn, and to our listening audience on today. Hello, hello, hello. We are so glad to be here on today. I'm excited for this topic. You know, I know that in this topic, we're going to do a lot of the blasts from the past. So some of you that were around in the 70s, you're going to remember some of these things. And those of you that are younger than that time, at least you're going to hear these words if you've never heard them before. Yeah. Some people don't even know what a hippie is, and they've never heard that word. But we're going to break this thing open and look and examine some of the philosophies for the hippies lifestyle. And we have a few other documents and I don't know if we'll get all of this done today. We might have to have a part two, and we'll talk about some things that disappeared from the 70s.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that were back in history that are not here. You know, I am glad, Dr. Glenn, let me say this, cut in and say, I'm glad to be a part of both generations. I know what it was before because I was a kid in the 70s, and so I know what it is now. And I appreciate the technology, but I also appreciate, you know, being a child of the 70s, listening to 8-track tapes. And, you know, I remember Ronald McDonald, you know, Ronald McDonald, and he had other characters that went with him. So I'm not mentioning the restaurant name, but just the character. And now we don't see that anymore. We don't see that. Things change, and we see them phased out. They're no longer there. Sometimes they bring them back as a blast from the past. But I remember those things, being a child growing up in the 70s. I remember the playlands. You know, I remember certain things. I lived up north just like you, Dr. Glenn, and I was raised in Detroit. So there's certain things that we had up in the north that we didn't see in the south. You know, I remember my mother being a young woman wearing those mini skirts.
Yeah.
And they used to have what they call cabarets. They used to go out and not go to nightclubs, but they had cabarets. Do you remember that word?
He dressed in their fancy attire.
Yes.
And bell bottoms, and a lot of men wore vest and all kinds of stuff.
That's right. A lot of halter tops and Afro puffs and those type of things. I remember my mother wearing the loud lipsticks and, you know, two-tone colored outfits. You know, there'd be one color on one side, bell bottoms, and one color on the other side, bell bottoms. She loved to dress. And so I remember a lot of things from the 70s. We had this horrible, ugly, multicolored couch. It had all these different colors on it, like brown, yellow, red, and green, all splotched in the same couch. And I remember we were so poor, we had some cinder blocks up under the, you know, the legs had broken under the couch, and we had some cinder blocks under there. My mother covered that couch up, and you were sitting up high. You thought you were sitting on something nice.
That's if you are allowed to go into the living room.
Yes, that's true.
Because most of the time you were not permitted to go into the living room.
That's right.
That was for special occasions.
That's right. Now, as we got older and, you know, a little bit, she had a living room set up like that with the plastic on the furniture.
I was about to say the plastic.
The plastic on the furniture, you could not sit in the living room. It was for company.
If you did, you got stuck to the plastic.
That's right. That's right. I remember that plastic. They used to preserve things, you know.
Apostle mentioned what exactly is a hippie. And I was waiting to say this, and we're going to mention this throughout the broadcast. If we don't get it there, we'll do a part 2 for sure. But what is a hippie? The word hippie itself is thought to have rose from being a hypocrite, but that's actually not true. I have an audio clip on with the African-American gentleman explaining that. He said it was hypocrite. You said you were going to do something, but you went about doing it another way. That's hypocritical.
And that's where hippie came from?
That's what it was thought to come from, but
okay.
I have a document on that itself because I researched that a little bit more carefully after I heard what the African-American gentleman said about it being a hypocrite. I said, let me go do a little more research and find out about it.
Well,
So,
it looks like he had the wrong explanation. Hypocrite. Okay, maybe I can see where he got the connection.
Right, but he goes on to explain other stuff in it.
Okay.
But we'll get to the audio if we can, and I just wanted to mention that at the top.
Yes, and so we know that you're going to enjoy this broadcast on today as we break out some information about hippies. I know this is something that is from the past, but we're just giving some things where we can enjoy some things here from the past. You know, sometimes we give very heavy subjects, and this is one of the lighter ones that we want to have a little bit of fun with and think about it in a positive way. This in no way is putting any negative light on anyone, but I want to say that there's a lot of people that used to be hippies, and they're still around, and they may not want to admit it now and say, you know, I used to be a hippie. But now...
But actually, there was nothing really wrong with it, because if you look at it in a positive way, they were doing something that was against government because they opposed the Vietnam War and things like that, other government issues. So if you look at it in a positive way of what they were doing, then you would say, yeah, they was doing a good cause. Just like our African-American brothers and sisters, which were called black during the day, marched and struggled and fought during the civil rights era. Well, they were doing the same thing, but they wasn't no more or less. Well, some of the whites gathered along with the blacks in the civil rights era, but then they all took apart. The blacks joined the hippies movement too, but for another cause, along with civil rights.
Yes. So we're going to ask today if you want to call in and just put it out there. Maybe you want to admit you were a hippie. Maybe you don't want to tell anybody. But we're going to ask you today if you want to call in and you want to speak something about it or tell us something about the hippie movement and you were back in those times, you can call in and be live on the radio with Dr. Glenn and myself on today. The phone number is 252-756-2008. You could call and you could be live on the air. Hey, there's nothing wrong with looking at the past and thanking God for where he brought us from. And so, yes.
That's right, because there's a lot of things that was done in the back in the day that's not available now. Apostle, I mentioned a couple of things, but we're going to mention some more as we proceed through the broadcast. 10 seconds, Apollo.
Hey, we will be right back after this break. The Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn, and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams, right here on Awesome Radio.
Do you have documents that need to be notarized? We provide notary services by appointment. 252-756-3137. Clemmy Family Care Home, registered by the state of North Carolina, is an adult age 55 and older independent living care home with facilities in Ayden, Winterville, and Greenville. Clemmy Family Care Home, 252-916-4466. Daily prepared meals available, fun activities, field trips, and more. We have private rooms and double rooms, professional medical staff, and 24-hour security at all facilities. Clemmy Family Care Home, 252-916-4466. Private pay, Medicaid, and Medicare accepted. Veterans are welcomed also. Visiting hours from 6 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. daily. To schedule a tour of our facilities and to learn more of what Clemming Family Care Home has to offer, contact Tammy, 252-916-4466. That's 252-916-4466. Clemming Family Care Home, an adult independent living care home with facilities in Ayden, Winterville, and Greenville.
Hello, this is Cheryl Davis. Thank you for listening to the Awesome Radio Network.
Awesome Radio, yes, awesome, awesome, can you feel it? Awesome, awesome.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. You are still tuned into Awesome Radio Network, WECU, 1570 AM, 107.5 FM, Winterville, Greenville, North Carolina. Apostle, want to pick back up where you left off?
Yes, we were getting ready to give you some facts and some things about hippies. And as we mentioned from a prior show, thought it would be an interesting topic to dig into a little bit more and get some solid facts instead of just a few seconds that we were able to glaze over that particular subject. And it says, what is the meaning of a hippie? And we have a definition here. The term originated in the 1960s as Dr. Glenn, got to get this tongue together. Derivation of the word hipster. So meaning like hip, right? So historically hip referred to someone who was aware and in the know, tracing its roots back through jazz and African jive slang. Because remember, I do remember people used to say, I'm hip.
Yeah,
you know, that was like a yes confirmation. Like, do you know about this? Yeah, I'm hip.
I remember that during the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah, I'm hip. Are you hip to this? Or let me hip you to, you know, they used to use that word.
Yeah, that was a confirmation of, I agree, or I say yes.
Yeah, I agree, or, you know, let me hip you, let me give you knowledge too. So it meant, you know, a positive thing, hip. And I wonder if those two went together. I'm hip. I remember hearing those words in the 70s.
Like I said, there was some positive influences about it. It wasn't all negativity. Yeah, of course, they disagreed with a lot of things that the government were involved with, and they opposed a lot of it, which is why they were, I'm not going to use the word radical, but they chose to be distant from the government. You know what I mean?
Yes. So it said here, hippie ideology is built on a specific set of principles that remain consistent. And so this is what we saw consistency with, you know, trying to, in the description of them. It was like Dr. Glenn said, peace and anti-war, strong opposition to violence, militarism, the draft, and specifically the Vietnam War. So they didn't want people drafted to go into the war. So these people were also, I want to say this word that I didn't see here, protesters.
Yeah.
They were types of protesters that were protesting things from the government, just like we see today, you know, or as we saw in the segregation struggle. You know, people were protesting what was going on, and this was a type of group that did protest. They would, as you saw, burn flags sometimes. So, you know, Dr. Glenn said it wasn't all negative, but it wasn't all positive either, because they had some different philosophies, or they operated by some different ways that may have not been necessarily appealing to the law at all times.
And you get a lot of people together. They had things like concerts like Woodstock. Woodstock was huge. People came from all over the world to participate in Woodstock, usually held in upstate New York.
Yeah, outdoor concert, Woodstock was. And I've seen a few videos and things that came from Woodstock, and it looked, again, like a big concert plus protests.
Yeah.
Like the protesters. The hippies had a specific look, and you could kind of pick them out amongst, you know, what we want to, don't want to say regular people, but everyday people. Their look their look is what distinguished them too, with the bell bottoms and the flowers and the psychedelic colors and the tie-dye colors. Tie-dye went out back then in the 70s, but it had a big comeback in our generation here.
And like I said last week, most of our hippies or hipsters almost always had a Volkswagen Beetle. I don't know what it is, but they've had a Volkswagen Beetle or the Buswagon van.
Yeah, the station wagon.
And the station wagon.
That's what I used to see a lot of them that they see in those old movies driving the station wagon.
I had a neighbor when I lived at the Jersey Shore. His mom was single, so they were a single household. But he was light-skinned and had a Volkswagen Beetle. And we always spoke to him and thought he wasn't like us, from the neighborhood. He had a little bit more, how could I say, characteristics about him. So we always thought he was going to be part of that hippie era. He had a bald head. My cousin had a bald head. So one day, he was on the second floor of his apartment. He had a slingshot, because they had slingshots back in the day. My cousin was walking through the yard. Like I said, he had a bald head too. He took this slingshot, cocked it back with a big marble in it, popped my cousin upside the head. I'm like, oh my God. But I think he was involved in that era.
Dr. Glenn, you have some stories.
It's true.
That doesn't make hippie sound too appealing. Well, it talked about the clothing too. Wanted to talk about the long hair, because a lot of the hippies you could identify them by the extra long hair and the beads. They would wear a lot of beads along with the long hair around their necks and, on their arms, and their clothes would be beaded. A lot of that signified that they were hippies.
And a lot of them wore or had tattoos or carried signs or had stickers with the peace sign. So everybody assumed or knew they were hippies when they saw the peace sign that they would carry or have on the tattooed on their body.
Definitely. I think that was like their their emblem. Their motto was like the peace sign.
The peace sign, yeah.
Yeah, we always saw that in connection. It said love and connection. They believed in love and connection, emphasizing non-judgmental attitudes, empathy, and universal unity. Now, I wanted to throw in a couple of things about the love, because I didn't see that on these documents, Dr. Glenn. They had some very liberal ideals about free love. And that's one thing I didn't see on any of the documents that we have here. And that was a part of that era too, which gave it a negative connotation at the time.
Yeah, because they were very, very extremely free-spirited.
They had the rejection of monogamy. They embraced open relationships.
Yeah, free-spirited.
Polygamy too. They were into polygamy. Intimacy should not be normalized or constrained by ownership of marriage or jealousy. And it said they normalized sex outside of marriage. So that was a very powerful attraction to some of the people to become a part of the hippie movement. To be a hippie was because they wanted, they came against the government. They came against marriage. They came against anything that had a constraint. So they wanted this free love and to be out there and just, roaming and having no boundaries. It also talked about, on one of the articles that I looked outside of this, that there was a lot of them that had STDs. Yeah. And there was a lot of abuse of women because of this free love.
Because it's free-spirited, yeah.
Yes, taking advantage of women because of the free love philosophy. So there was some negative things as well as some positive things, because it was a movement. And then we cannot say that we don't see movements today. We see things that come in as fads for a while and then it's gone. We saw things in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and then we saw fads in the 80s. Remember the rap era, when the rap era first came in? And then now, we're over into the computer age where everybody has smartphones and different things. So, and social media is the new fad and the different things that are now.
And with the rap era, the police and the government were to tarnish NWA for the song I'm not going to mention. But now there's more and more cultures listen to rap than ever before. It's all over the world. It's worldwide.
Yes, we're getting ready to go out on another break. But when we come back, we're going to talk about anti-materialism because they were anti-material. They didn't believe in, and I think, Dr. Glenn, that's why I thought they were homeless people because they didn't want to own anything. Hey, we want you to call in and come and share in with us on this broadcast. We know that we're giving you some interesting things looking at the hippie era. This is the Glenn Johnson Show, Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. And you are listening to us right here on Awesome Radio Network. So we will be back right back after this particular break. I'm going to put that number out there again, 252-756-2008, 252-756-2008. Call in.
What makes a great father? It's rarely the big moments most people remember. Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. With Father's Day coming up this Sunday, we're reminded that fatherhood is one of life's greatest stewardships. Psalm 103:13 says, "As a father shows compassion to his children, so the Lord shows compassion to those who fear him." Earthly fathers have the privilege of reflecting God's heart through patience, mercy, guidance, and love. Whether it's providing, encouraging, or simply showing up day after day, those quiet acts matter more than they may ever know. And for those who carry grief or complicated memories this weekend, God sees every ache and every hope. This weekend, let's thank God for faithful fathers, encourage the dads around us, and remember the perfect love of our Father in heaven. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
Awesome radio. Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. Can you hear it? Awesome. Awesome.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show here on Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU, Winterville, Greenville, North Carolina. I want to mention something to Apostle that's not a reference to hippies, but like he was saying about the rap era and hip-hop era. So I think the police have forgot about some of this stuff back in the 80s, particularly 85 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, what was known as the MOVE organization, and the police bombed an entire neighborhood to get after the MOVE group. Hundreds of people got killed. An entire neighborhood block was destroyed. They had to rebuild it. I'm talking about hundreds of houses. So if police had thought about some of the things back then and today that were going on, they probably never would have bombed that house. I just wanted to mention that because they should have took the same contacts they had when all the hippies were doing their thing. Use that same context and prevented that MOVE bombing from happening.
Yes, and I agree. You know, we never saw any of that bombing of the hippies. These people were like squatters too. You know, they would go and just take up residency sometime, a bunch of them and start living in a different place. And as I said earlier, I always thought or felt like they were homeless people because the way they looked with the long hair and just, it looked like they were just out living, you know, just roaming from place to place. That's how my image as a child, you know, seeing them in the 70s.
Well, anyway, I want to say we are down to our final probably 25 minutes now. So we're going to go over some more of these documents, and we're going to definitely have to do a part 2 because we're not going to have enough time to do it all.
Yes. Dr. Glenn, can I say this?
Yes.
Anti-materialism, rejecting strict societal pressures regarding wealth, status, and traditional 9-to-5 corporate jobs. So I'm venturing to say that a lot of them were kind of homeless because if you don't have no job, you don't. And well, some of them came from rich families too. So they had the support of rich families. But if you're rejecting a 9-to-5 job, you're rejecting, you know, having a place to live too. So I just wanted to say that, Dr. Glenn.
Yeah, I have a 2.5-minute audio clip if I can play that. It's on Black Power because the hippie era also allowed our black brothers and sisters to create, organize, and be a part of the Black Power movement.
Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act, bringing down one of the last legal vestiges of Jim Crow segregation. Just 5 days later, an altercation between an unarmed black man and the police sparked riots on the streets of Watts, a predominantly black neighborhood in Los Angeles. The riots revealed that America still faced deep racial issues, and in the coming years, urban unrest roiled cities across the nation.
Dr. King's message of nonviolence wore thin as the 1960s progressed, particularly because violence is everywhere.
As race relations deteriorated, Stokely Carmichael, a young, charismatic, electrifying speaker, was searching for a new way to reframe the civil rights struggle. And he found it through one resonant metaphor.
It's time we stand up and take over. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power.
The civil rights movement had been extraordinarily successful, but there has not necessarily been the tangible transformation in black people's living conditions. Carmichael is making an argument that only black power will take black people to that next level.
Hey, what do you want? That's what we gonna get.
The effect is electrifying. Soon after, black power groups were organizing across the country, each with their own idea about what the phrase actually meant.
You got everybody from those that are saying, yes, let's go for elected office, to those that say, let's overthrow the government.
It called for self-determination. It called for an end to nonviolence as the only strategy of the black movement.
Looking back, black power marked a startling shift in the civil rights movement and in the evolution of black consciousness.
Black power is really going to inspire a whole new wave of black elected officials and inspire the black arts movement, using culture to transform what we think of as black identity. Proud, strong black women and men.
Black, the word that for decades so many African Americans most dreaded being called, almost overnight became both a battle cry and the badge of honor.
Okay, that was an audio clip on Black Power. I want to mention something to Apostle. You know, here in this country, if you're a person who organizes something, get a large turnout, get a lot of people coming out, then you are subject to scrutiny by the government. The government is going to more or less take a stand to be against you and try to do everything in their power to get you, because they still would say, who is this? How could this one person organize all these people and millions of people show up? That's what the concern was with the Million Man March. One person got all those people together. It wasn't all the people that was afraid of. It was just that one person that was able to organize all those people.
Yes, and you know, unfortunately, a lot of people, especially in the black community, when even back then in those times and during segregation and different times, the people that would organize those particular, and I'm just talking about across the board, a lot of times they would be very gifted people, but then they had problems on the other side with integrity. And even today, we still see the same thing where some that are leading some black, movements and particular things, they end up struggling or having issues on the other side with integrity or being integral. There are people that have, bad reputations, but they're absolutely gifted. And that's one thing that we need to look at here. Dr. Glenn, I wanted to go to another sheet and it said hippie. Well, back in the 70s, there was a British comedy series which was called Hippie. And that was over in
England.
Britain.
Yeah, Britain, yeah.
Yes. So they were mimicking the hippies that they, and how they dressed and doing certain comedic skits and certain things that represented hippies. But I wanted to read this off of that particular paper. And it said, according to Malcolm X's 1964 autobiography, the word hippie in 1940s Harlem had been used to describe a specific type of white man who acted more Negro than Negroes.
Really?
That's what it said. That's how Malcolm X described a hippie, that it was a white man that acted more black than black people. And they used the word Negro than Negroes.
Right.
I don't know. I won't say it like that. Some black people, they had to live a certain way because they didn't have a choice about it. A lot of these people, they made the choice to live that way, and they didn't have to.
Let me say something about current culture, and once again, the rap, hip hop era. It was thought to be just all these black guys or African Americans, but as time moved on, now you have, and excuse me for saying this, now you have more and more white people, particularly young white boys and white girls. They are more or less given the appearance, they're black because they listen to all this hip hop and rap. They want to be black. They wear their clothing like some of the black youth wear. The guys will wear their pants sagging, all kinds of stuff like that. So they're just trying to mimic too what the black guys are doing.
Hey, we're getting ready to go out on another break, and we want you to come right back with us. I have something to say about that, Dr. Glenn, because
I know you do.
I do. I definitely do. It's right there on the tip of my tongue and everything. I have to say it. And so we want you to hang on. There's a cliffhanger. Come on back to hear what Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams has to say after this break. There's something about that black culture. I have to say it, and the influence of it.
You got about 2 minutes, and then we'll get to it.
Hey, this is the Glenn Johnson Show. You're listening to us on Awesome Radio. Back in a moment.
It's a heart problem. This is Ken Ham, CEO of the Apologetics Ministry of Answers in Genesis. Even though the Bible presents many infallible proofs of Christ's resurrection, skeptics still refuse to believe it. But the problem isn't with the evidence, it's our sinful hearts. Jesus addresses this problem in one of his accounts where Abraham says of unbelievers, "If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded though one rose from the dead." And when Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead, the religious leaders couldn't deny it, so they plotted to kill him. The problem isn't the evidence, but Christ did come to earth as the God-man to die in our place and be raised to life. Will you believe?
Discover the good news of Christ's death and resurrection at AnswersRadio.com. That's AnswersRadio.com.
It's early morning. A parent is getting their child ready for school. Across town, someone's preparing for an important medical appointment. In moments like these, one thing matters most. Who can you trust to get your loved ones there safely? That's where Emmaus Travels comes in. Founded in Greenville, Emmaus Travels was built on one mission: to provide safe, dependable rides for students and adults needing medical transportation in Eastern North Carolina. Our drivers aren't just drivers. They're trained, vetted, and compassionate people who understand that every ride matters. Because to us, it's not just about getting from point A to point B. It's about peace of mind. It's about knowing your child is in good hands, your loved one is cared for, and every journey is hailed with respect. So when you're making that important decision, choose the one that truly cares. Learn more at EmmausTravels.org or call 252-412-3169. That's 252-412-3169. Emmaus Travels. We go the extra mile.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivations with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins Williams. Here on Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, WECU. Winterville, Greenville, North Carolina. Apostle, we're going to get to what you want to talk about now.
Yeah, so I wanted to say, as you were talking about the influence of black culture and how, some of the other races want to emulate what we do. And I wanted to say that's because, back in time, it may have not always been cool to look or to be black. But a lot of other races emulate the things that we do. And it could have had a negative connotation. Nobody wants to be black. But let me tell you, it's a lot of things that are stolen or that are pulled from the black race that even today we see that from even going down to our looks. Having big lips used to be not a thing for a lot of people. Now it's It's odd to have those little thin lips, and everybody's getting collagen, fat taken out of your rear to put on your face.
Getting Botox.
I mean, all kinds of stuff to get those cut high cheekbones like we have. You know, there's a lot. You know, they want them big doe eyes like we have. A lot of people that don't even mention it used to be something negative to have a big behind. Now people are getting the BBL and all kinds of things, trying to get that rear end like a lot of us have.
Yeah, I was just about to say that with that apple bottom.
Yeah, remember it started with apple bottom jeans. But now they want those, they don't want that flat, you know, that chalkboard, ironing board back in. They're wanting something that looks a little bit more luscious and a little bit more filled out, you know. And even in our culture, a lot of us or of the black race, we see them doing that now. That's the thing now, is to get some things added. So there are things that used to not look appealing for us. You know, people would tease. I mean, even when I was a little girl, they would tease and say big lips. But now look, people are paying for those lips.
And what they have said over time, we are all one people. It's time for all cultures to get together and work together. So essentially, I think that's what they're doing.
Well, and you see sagging. We talked about that last week. I see that in other cultures. I mean, as many outside of our race as I do in the race, walking around with their pants sagging like that. I don't know if it's just they don't have belts, but I see a lot of sagging going on.
It just disgusts me.
So, Dr. Glenn, one of the words that we keep seeing here, and I keep seeing on one of the papers, is beatniks. The beatniks were a part of the hippie culture too. So not all of them wore the long hair, but the beatniks, I'm not totally sure about who the beatniks were, but I know it was a type of style too also that they wore, which was not the long hair. They used to wear the precision cut, you know, hairstyles. And I think about, you know, on the Tina Turner movie when Ike was up there and he had the little beatnik hair cut.
that bowl cut.
Straight hair style, you know, that type of thing.
That bowl cut.
Yes. So that was a large part of the hippie generation and the anti-war movement was the beatniks. And so maybe we'll look at them a little bit closer because that's a type of style or culture or something. But it also said bohemians were a part of the hippie generation.
And when they said bohemian, I automatically assumed they were talking about the black race or black culture.
Yeah, so
when they said bohemian.
Were there black hippies? Let's get to that question before, and I don't know if we should even get into that because we have such small amount of time left.
Let's get into it because I want to go to one audio that's going to be about 7 minutes. That was on what we no longer see or use today.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that, Dr. Glenn. Let's do the audio.
That's about 7 minutes. I mean,
okay, about black hippies.
All right, hold on. I hope I get the right one.
Yes. Yeah, it says that history and counterculture 1960 roots, some black Americans embrace the anti-establishment theos, blending peace and love with civil rights advocacy. So some of them blended it in together and they were joining the hippie movement. I initially thought, because we see all the pictures and this is for real. Go to Wikipedia, go to some of the places and Google hippie, and you don't see a lot of black people mixed in with that, if any.
Yeah.
If any.
And I'm glad you said that because if you go to Wikipedia, you will find a lot of information on hippie. Some of the things I won't have with us because it contains a lot of material, a lot of images that we would have to have a part 3 and 4 if I was to copy all that.
Oh, yeah. And they said that modern black hippies, I'm like, what modern black hippies? So apparently the hippies are still around. They have just merged into other names. It said modern black hippies often blend 1970s aesthetics with African-inspired jewelry, head wrap, and earthy handmade materials. I wouldn't consider them to be hippies. I would just say that they are Americans that like the African clothing or the African persuasion, even in today's society.
Yeah, that might be a part of the African nationalism.
Yeah, I don't know that I would consider that.
The red, black, and green.
And it said the Rastafari influence. Many black people adopted Rastafari and reggae culture, which promotes natural living, organic diets, and spiritual harmony. So I don't know what that is to do. And maybe I can see that back in the hippie era that the reggae music would have played a part with that concerning the black culture. Because you would see a lot of, and then I'm thinking the lines got blurred or crossed between what was actually reggae or what was actually of that reggae style music influence versus being a hippie.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah, the clothing style, could definitely be the same. It said music pioneers, icons like Jimi Hendrix, Sly Stone fuse rock, soul, and physiologic aesthetics, creating enduring black hippie icons.
But
Jimi Hendrix.
But in addition to Jimi Hendrix and the reggae, like for instance, in the Bahamas, they had Junkanoo music. Junkanoo. It was a big thing in the Bahamas.
It said holistic health. Many black hippies focused on holistic wellness, plant-based diets, yoga, and natural hair care. So that was a part of it. Black hippies in the 70s. Black hippies was an American hip-hop super group from South Los Angeles.
I like how they said a super hip-hop.
So Black Hippie, that was a group.
Hip-hop. They go change from hip-hop to hippie to hip-hop, right?
Yeah, that's what it said. So can a black person be a hippie? Yes. Black hippies exist, though their presence in the counterculture has historically been complex. It said historical research from Cambridge Court noted that while 1960s counterculture was predominantly white, many African Americans actively participated in the hippie lifestyle. So there were black hippies, but the majority of hippies were not African American.
I don't know if we're going to get to it today, but I like the part where they say a lot of them followed Jesus Christ. First they didn't believe it, but then they had second thoughts and this did that.
Yes.
And they started following Jesus.
Yes, there was an integration of a Jesus movement there. And so next week, we'll talk a little bit about that because some of the negative things that we've heard, almost like looking homeless, we didn't mention today, but a lot of drug use. That these people were doing a lot of drugs.
LSD and all that stuff.
They wanted things to be free.
Hallucinogenics.
So they wanted things to be free so that the law didn't persecute them for using drugs and for being out even in public on drugs.
Yeah.
So
and it says all that in one of the documents.
Yes. So we're going to talk about the Jesus movement on next week. Dr. Glenn, do we have that particular, or are we need to wait? Hey.
Well, we'll get to another audio when we come back.
Yes, we're going to come right back from this break. Hang on. We'll be right back.
This summer, imagine walking into a quiet office space designed for focus, creativity, and growth. The atmosphere is peaceful, professional, and private. And for just a moment, you can breathe, think, create, and build your business without distraction. From June 1st through August 31st, LJPK Business Center is offering 20% off office space and conference room rentals during their summer savings promotion. Located at 210 South Washington Street in downtown Greenville, LJPK Business Center offers quiet private offices, conference space, private parking, secure print service, free Wi-Fi, plus complimentary snacks, coffees, and teas. Whether you're meeting with clients, launching a dream, hosting a workshop, or simply needing a professional place to work, LJPK Business Center is ready for you this summer. Need more details? Call 252-420-1355. That's 252-420-1355.
Are you more of an Eeyore or a Happy Gilmore? I'm Alina Abijamra, and this is Today's Single Christian. Truth. I'm a lot more of an Eeyore than I am a Happy Gilmore. I tend to think the world is going to cave in on me on any given day. Whether it's in my dating life or in my ministry life, I tend to expect disaster. It's how I roll. And while it might be amusing to think of me as an Eeyore, this sort of negative mindset will never lead us to a positive life. It's virtually impossible to end up with joy if you're like me and constantly mulling on all that's bad in your life. In Proverbs 17:22, we're told that a merry heart does good like medicine. If you long for a life of hope and healing, nothing will serve as a balm to your aching soul like a little bit of happy. Make it your habit to obliterate negative thoughts out of your mind and start rejoicing in the Lord instead. Where your mind is joyful, your life will overflow with joy too. For more, visit todaysinglechristian.com.
Awesome radio. Yeah, it's awesome. Awesome. Can you hear it? Awesome. Awesome.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is our final segment of today's broadcast. But thank you for tuning in back. Keeping it locked right here to Awesome Radio, the Glenn Johnson Show. Motivation with Glenn and Apostle Jacqueline Cullins with him. Apostle, if you don't mind, I'd like to play our final audio clip because the one I was looking for, I failed to put on the system.
All right.
The hippie movement emerged in the United States during the 1960s as a countercultural reaction to the conformist societal norms of the post-World War II era and the escalating political tensions of the Cold War. This movement, which had its epicenter in places like San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district, rejected mainstream values, materialism, and the rigid structures of traditional institutions. Hippies embraced ideals of peace, love, and communal living, often expressed through colorful attire, psychedelic art, and experimental lifestyles. The roots of the hippie movement can be traced back to the Beat generation of the 1950s, which challenged societal norms through literature, poetry, and an avant-garde lifestyle. By the 1960s, this ethos evolved into a broader social movement, deeply influenced by Eastern philosophy, environmental consciousness, and civil rights activism. Music became a central pillar of hippie culture, with icons like Bob Dylan, the Beatles, Janis Joplin, and Jimi Hendrix using their art to critique war and promote peace. The Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, was a pivotal factor in the rise of the hippie movement. Initially a conflict between North Vietnam's communist government and South Vietnam's anti-communist regime, the war escalated into a broader proxy battle during the Cold War, with the United States heavily intervening to contain the spread of communism.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to cut the audio short right there so that we can get to the rest of one of these documents. Then we'll pick back up next week on part 2. Apostle, you are ready?
Yes, I wanted to, there's a question here that says, what happened to hippie black people? It said that black hippies, like the broader counterculture movement, transitioned out of visibility 1960s-70 era by returning to conventional careers, aging out, or channeling their energy into political activism, environmentalism, and civil rights. Many integrated into mainstream life while keeping their ideas. And that's exactly what happened to a lot of the hippie culture, is that they just aged out of it because, one of the groups said that it was a lot of, the age was about 16 to 24. And, you get too old, that era just went out, even the style of clothing left. And they just aged out and got too old for that. It's time to start getting yourself together and getting a job, a 9 to 5, and getting an education, and stop fighting against the government. The war and things, that stuff was way behind them. And now they had to transition into regular lifestyles. Dr. Glenn?
And I think I was looking for that part. I was looking for, the hippies believe in Jesus, despite the growing popularity of counterculture. Many young adults became confused, which led them to turn towards the church. People identified as hippies came forward, sharing their testimonies and the peace they found after turning towards the Jesus lifestyle?
Definitely, Dr. Glenn, because after doing all those drugs and being homeless and just hanging out places and protesting and being arrested and sometimes beaten by the police because of some of their views and some of the things, and, you know, going to the doctor and having to get healed from some of the things that they allowed into their bodies, Jesus is always Jesus is always the answer.
And that's why I think to this day, when somebody's doing something wrong or something bad, and somebody will refer to them, you need Jesus.
Yeah, Dr. Glenn, I woke up this morning with those very words that I just spoke out of my mouth, that Jesus is always the answer. I see so many things that Jesus is the answer to, so many questions, so many confusions, and so many things that are going on that just need, and seems like it doesn't have an answer, but Jesus is that answer.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and what?
The light.
That's right.
That's right. So Jesus is the answer. If you don't know what to do, how to think about it, how to put it together in your mind, you need to look to Jesus, because Jesus is the answer. He'll give you the answer to everything that you need. All of life woes, there's an answer for everything, and Jesus is that answer.
Because there's no one that's all-knowing but Father God and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
That's right. And listen, you can reach out to him at any time. He's there available to you. He's there for you to call upon. Don't ever feel like you're alone, because God is always with you. He's always walking right by your side. I remember in the old church they used to sing a song, Dr. Glenn, that said, "Walk with me, Lord. Hold my hand, Lord.
Walk with me." I know what you're talking about.
While I'm on this tedious journey,
While
I
I'm
need
on
Jesus.
this pilgrim journey, I want Jesus to walk with me.
He will walk with you. He'll be your friend. He will be there always for you. Never feel like you're alone. And as I said, the answer to all problems and everything is Jesus. Dr. Glenn?
I think that's absolutely correct. And I had some thought on my mind. Let me give me 1 second to bring it back up.
I know Dr. Glenn wanted to at least start with one thing that we're going to come back with next week. We're going to look at some things that vanished from the 70s and they're no longer there before. Wait a minute. It started here on one of the lines. It said McDonald's fried apple pies. Wait a minute, Dr. Glenn. I had 2 yesterday.
Because they're baked.
No, the fried ones are back.
The fried ones are back?
Yes, go to McDonald's, the fried ones are back.
I heard about that,
Yeah, I bought my husband and myself 2 the other day. Now, it tastes a little different now. Something going on.
because it's fried, not baked.
No, not the fried part, but it does taste just slightly different or something from when I remember them as a kid.
I know one thing. You can't just take it out of that box and bite into it, because the filling is so hot, you get 3rd-degree burns.
Well, I remember the crust being a little thicker, I think. I don't know. It was just good as a kid, and they were bigger. You know, I didn't cut down the size of everything now.
Before we go in the broadcast, I want to say one thing. One thing that's no longer available, that was available back in the 70s, 80s, was a pay phone, a public phone. We had to put a quarter in. You know, sometimes it was a quarter. It would start out a dime, then 15 cents, then 25 cents. But I'll always assume that would be a good thing to have back, because what about our school-age children walking home from school and someone tried to attack them and they have to get to somewhere to call? There's no public phones or pay phones.
That's right.
Not unless they have a cell phone.
That's right. And they'll have to ask somebody to use theirs. But remember the phone booth? You know, phone booths are not around anymore like they used to be. I remember the phone booths. I remember my mother pulling me and my little brother in the phone booth.
Yeah.
And she putting a dime in there and being able to make a call.
Yeah.
Isn't it something you could make a call for a dime back then?
Yeah, 10 cents.
Yes.
That's a pay phone or a public phone. Sometimes it was in a closed cage. Sometimes it was just something hanging on the wall or a pole.
Yeah, but the one I'm remembering with the phone booth, it was like a
They're closed.
plexiglass
The one that
like
you
that.
close, yeah.
Yeah, plexiglass. You could see out while you were in there. It always had a phone book that was attached in there, and you could go and stand in there. It had a little accordion door, and it would close.
Do you know one reason why they got rid of those? The ones that you go in and close?
Uh-huh.
Because some of the unsavory people would go in there and urinate. The whole thing, we used to go in there, it smelled awful.
Oh, yeah. And then people would sleep in it, and it was an accessibility for people that were disabled to be able to get inside of the phone booth. If you had a big wheelchair and different things, you couldn't fit in there. So they phased it out because they couldn't make them any bigger. So it was accessibility problem too.
Had to be ADA required.
Oh, yeah, I remember. I'm a child of the 70s. Hey, we're at the end of our show, and we're going to ask you to come back next week, especially to hear some things that disappeared from the 70s, and we're going to talk about the Jesus movement on next week. We have some good things for you here on next week. We're going to talk about when TV went off the air. We remember those things. We remember all those things when the news used to come on, that flag and that music. So we want to see you back here on next week, and we're going to have a good subject for you. Hang on in there. Come back next week. Dr. Glenn?
I want everybody to come back. It's like Apostle said, we have a lot more to bring to you. I'll try to do a little bit of research on what she had mentioned earlier. And we'll see you all next week. God bless you all.
Awesome Radio. Yes, awesome. Awesome. Can you